The technical matter here.
Those nice words. Okay, let's go.
Welcome to another interview for the Kansas City Garment Industry Project. Today is August 8th, 2011. I'm John Dvorak, and I'm interviewing Eileen Garry, whose husband Marshall operated a company in Kansas City called Garry and Company. We interviewed Eileen several months ago, and this is an addendum to that interview. The videographer is Mark Titus. Eileen, you had mentioned earlier a important garment company in New York called Maimin, but
Right.
you didn't elaborate on it, and
Well, I
we
felt,
need to get some more information about it. What was the company?
well, I felt that the Maimin company needed to be included in this project because what they had to offer to the garment industry here in Kansas City was major, namely that it was the Maimin cutting machine company. They had created or invented, if you will, an object called a Maimin cutting machine, which was used in most of the factories because this machine was able to cut around patterns and make it much easier for those working in the factories. And my father-in-law Bert Garry and my husband Marshall Garry represented the Maimin Cutting Machine Company out of New York for years and years and years, and it brought to the garment industry a possibility of doing not only better work but much more precise work when they cut patterns to make the clothes. Just that simple. And it was the and I had left that out of the last interview, and I felt badly about that because the Maimin Cutting Machine Company and the Maimin family in New York was a major portion of what was involved in the Garry Company.
Do you recall the history of the Maimin company at all? Were they a long-time company, or did they spring up?
I think that they were a long-time company, but had refined what they had created in the years that my father-in-law went to New York and represented them. I guess it was in the 40s, the 30s, the 40s, when the garment industry's ability to create all this wonderful work was at its height.
So you think he represented them maybe as far back as the late 30s? Or
I do.
Certainly in the 40s?
Certainly in the 40s.
I see.
Absolutely.
Did you ever hear from your father-in-law or your husband as to how the relationship came about?
Well, I think this was like a group of individuals that knew each other, one from the other, and when my father-in-law would go to New York, he would seek out those people that would make his little business more efficient, more workable, and Maimin Cutting Machine Company was a big part of it. It was so important that when Marshall and I got married, all the Maimins were invited to our wedding.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you actually knew them personally?
I met them, right.
Did they market their equipment all over the United States?
Yes.
But it would have been a particularly important thing here in Kansas City because of all the companies
I think most of the companies here in Kansas City who manufactured within the garment district had Maimin cutting machines on their floor.
Do you recall what the machine looked like and how
Yes,
it
I
operated?
do. I do, but I can't tell you. It was about yay big. It had a post in it that cut the patterns, and you would work it by hand. Well, it was an electric machine which had electric power, but which made cutting the patterns and cutting the fabric that much easier than it was in years before that.
Do you know how they would have done it in years before that?
By scissors, I guess.
Oh, so this was a step of automation for the industry.
Right.
Was it considered top of the line,
Yes.
the Cadillac of
Yes.
its type?
Yes.
I see.
I mean, they used to talk about the Maimin cutting machine. They didn't talk about the cutting machine. They talked about the Maimin cutting machine because it was unique unto itself for what it did.
And the Maimins invented it.
That's right.
So how did that work then for your husband and your father-in-law? Did they sell and service, sell those machines and sell parts for those machines
All that.
all over?
Well, particularly here in the Kansas City area. I don't think they went outside the area. I think this is the old story. This was their territory. And this is where they worked, and this is where they operated. But the Maimin cutting machine was a very important part of the industry. I'd venture to say that most of the garment individuals in Kansas City who were manufacturers had Maimin cutting machines in their operation.
They would have many of them, I suppose.
I don't know that. I think they were quite expensive. Now, don't ask me how expensive, because I really don't know that. But I do know that they were expensive. And I do know that they didn't have 20 Maimin cutting machines in a factory. As I remember, if they had one or two, they had a lot. And the operators had to be taught how to use them. Because it wasn't just using a pair of scissors. It was using a machine that had to be guided and had to be instructed in terms of how to use it. That I know.
Was the Maimin business a significant part of your husband and father-in-law's company?
Yes. I mean, in addition to all the other things they did, but they always talked about the Maimin cutting machines, so it must have been an integral part, an important part of their business.
Do you know for what period of time it was important?
Oh, no.
All the way through the life of the industry?
I would assume that it was through the life of the industry. That would be my gut feeling, that that's what it was. I was a youngster. Did I pay enough attention to that? Of course not. But they were important because they talked about them all the time.
Did you ever see the Maimins in the years after your marriage?
Yes. When we went to New York, we would say, because you see, they used to go to New York. There was an apparel association. I'm sure you have that on record. In Kansas City, of all the manufacturers. Well, my father-in-law, more almost than Marshall, was involved in that. And he would go to New York and they would always see the Maimins. They became very good friends. I'm telling you, they were invited to my wedding.
What do you remember about them? Were they
What do I
nice
remember?
people or just normal folks? Or?
They were just people. They were just nice guys who came. What's interesting is that they had a daughter. One of them had a daughter. I think her name was Patsy. I'm not sure of that. Who dated Marshall. So that there was a real relationship with Patsy Maimin. I think it was Patsy Maimin.
This was before you.
Yep. It was before me.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
But that was, but I wanted you to know that particular piece of machinery within the garment district was a very important piece of historical significance because it made a difference in how they produced their garments.
Well, it sounds like it just helped them in terms of speed, efficiency,
Right.
profits.
I'm sure that was true.
Everything.
Right. And when after we left and I said to myself, you never even talked about the Maimins.
Any idea if there's any of those machines still around town?
I have no clue. I thought I saw one at the archives at the Jewish Community Center, but I could be wrong, through Brandon Puritz. I'm not sure of that, but it seems to me I remember seeing one. But more than that, I don't know.
We ought
to try and trace it, shouldn't we?
We ought to have one of those machines on display someplace in town.
Yes, we should. We should.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about Maimin?
That's it.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about your husband's company?
No, I think that's it. I think we pretty well covered it the last time, and I think we did it, as you said, we did a fairly good job. It was unique unto itself in those days, and today it could never survive.
We're done.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. I won't be able to charge you.